For this video, we will be learning about linear equations in two variables, 8.2. So for the first problem, we have to tell whether the ordered pair is a solution of the equation. Now remember, this is x and this is y in an ordered pair. So if we look at our linear equation, we can substitute y for y and x for x. So we have -3 equals 5 times 15. Well, -3 does not equal 75. So no, this ordered pair is not a solution to the equation. Now in the next example, it tells us to graph the equation and tell whether the equation is a function. Right? Well, we're going to need to make an input-output table. We're going to use an XY chart to do it because we want to be able to graph it. Now it's always important to start with low numbers so that we can graph them. So let's start with -1. So if I plug -1 in for x, y equals -1 minus 3. I'm going to DPS it. I get y equals -1 plus -3, or y equals -4. So there's my y. Now let's try 0. Y equals 0 minus 3. If I DPS it, I get y equals -3. And let's try a positive integer. So I'm going to use 1. Y equals 1 minus 3. DPS it. Y equals -2. So now I have 3 points that I can graph on my coordinate plane. Remember, the x-coordinate is the horizontal line, and the y-coordinate is graphed on the vertical line. So I'm going to start by finding -1, which is to the left of 0, and then I'm going to go down 4 for negative. And I'm graphing on the lines, not the spaces, so my first point is going to go right here. My second point is 0, -3, so that's going to be right here. And my last point is 1, -2, which is going to be right here. I can use my line tool to graph this. It says tell whether the equation is a function. But you can see none of my points fall on the same vertical line, so it passes the line test. And for each input, I have exactly one output. So yes, this is a function. Let's look at number 14. Y equals 8. All right. So let's make our XY chart. All right. If I make -1x, y is going to be 8. If I make 0x, y is going to be 8. If I make x1, y is going to be 8. So no matter what I do, y is going to be 8. So right now I'm going to graph this. -1 on my x-axis, and I'm going to go up to 8. That's my first point. 0, 8. 1, 8. Right, so now I have a line. Let's redo this. Now, for each of my inputs, do I have exactly one output? Yes. Negative 1 will always be 8, negative 0 will always, or 0 will always be 8, and 1 will always be 8. I don't have 2 points that pass through a vertical line on my graph, so yes, this is a function. For this next part, it says write the equation in function form, then graph the equation. First of all, let's define what function form is. When an equation is function form, it's in terms of y. So it's y equals a of x plus b. This is the form for function form. So I have to rearrange this so that it's in function form. So I have 7x minus y equals 0. And I want to get y by itself. So I'm going to add y to both sides. And I get 7x equals 0 plus y, or 7x equals y. Now I'm going to make my xy chart to find a few points on my line. If I make x negative 1, I get 7 times negative 1, which will make y negative 7. If I make x 0, that'll make y 0. And if I make x 1, that'll make y 7. So now I can graph it. So I start with negative 1. Actually, these are by 2, so I'm going to have to do it part way through. So this will be negative 7. 0, 0 is right here. 1, 7 is right here. Now I need to make a line. Goes through all my points. Here. So I've written my equation in function form. Oops. Just here, 7x equals y. And I graphed my equation. So let's look at the next example. This one's a little more complicated. I have to start by putting it in function form. So I'm going to start by writing my equation, 4x minus 12y plus 24 equals 0. Again, I want to get y on one side, so I'm going to add 12y to both sides. And I get 4x plus 24 equals 12y. Now, is this in function form yet? No, it's not, because I have 12y here, and I need to get rid of that 12. So I'm going to divide both sides by 12. Now the distributive principle applies here. Here it cancels out and I get y. 12 into 24 is 2. And then I have 4 over 24, or 1/3 x. Leave it in fraction form. Don't make it a repeating decimal. Now, I'm going to make an xy chart. And because I have this fraction 1/3, I'm going to stick to multiples of 3 so I can cancel that out. So I'm going to start with a negative 3 for x. So 1/3 times negative 3 plus 2 equals y. Okay, my 3's cancel out, negative 1 and 1. So I'm left with negative 1 plus 2 equals y, or 1 equals y. So I get negative 3, 1. And let's try 0. 1/3 times 0 plus 2 equals y. Okay, this is going to become 0, so I get 2 equals y. And my last one is 3. Let's do that one over here. 1/3 times 3 plus 2 equals y. My 3's cancel out. I'm left with 1. 1 plus 2 is 3, so y equals 3. So now let's graph it. Negative 3, 1. 0, 2. And 3, 3. Don't forget to draw your line. Now I've graphed this linear equation and I've put it in function form. So here's my function form. Here's my graph. Now it's your turn to solve the following problems based on the information you learned in the video. This is the end of the video on 8.2 linear equations in 2 variables.